The ultimatum of the stars. The massive Veridian warship cast a shadow over Washington, D.C., its gleaming hull reflecting sunlight in shimmering waves of blue and green. It hung in the air, defying gravity with technology that Earth's greatest minds could barely comprehend. Below, General Jasmine Torres stood on the White House lawn, watching the ship with narrowed eyes while aides scurried around her with urgent reports. "Still no response to our communications?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her rigid posture. "None, General," replied Commander Devon Walsh, his tablet displaying a series of failed transmission attempts. "Their shield technology is blocking everything we throw at them, including our most advanced quantum communication arrays." The Veridians had arrived 3 weeks ago, their fleet of 7 massive ships positioning themselves over major cities around the globe. Their first message had been simple. Earth was now under the protection, or more accurately, the control of the Veridian Collective, a species that had mastered interstellar travel centuries ago and considered humanity to be barely beyond the stage of clever apes playing with fire, as their ambassador Zorix had put it. Initial diplomatic efforts had gone poorly. The Veridians, with their luminescent skin and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies, treated human diplomats like children, patting them on the head metaphorically while explaining how fortunate Earth was to be chosen for guided development rather than resource extraction. "General Tours," a voice called from behind. She turned to see Dr. Nolan Park approaching, his wild salt-and-pepper hair disheveled as always, wire-rimmed glasses slightly askew. He carried his infamous backpack, a worn canvas rucksack covered in patches from scientific conferences around the world. Tours had never quite known what to make of Park. The man was brilliant, one of Earth's foremost quantum physicists, but he operated outside traditional academic structures, maintaining a small lab in rural Oregon where he conducted experiments that even his peers considered bizarre. Yet his theories on quantum entanglement had revolutionized communications technology in the past decade. "Dr. Park," Tours acknowledged with a nod. "I wasn't aware you had clearance for this area." Park smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "I don't, technically, but President Okafor called me personally." He patted his backpack. "Said I might have something useful to contribute to this afternoon's negotiations." Tours raised an eyebrow. "The final negotiation, where the Veridians will dictate the terms of our surrender." "Is that what they're calling it?" Park asked, gazing up at the ship. "Interesting choice of words." Before Tours could respond, the air around them shimmered, and 3 Veridians materialized on the lawn. Ambassador Zorix stood in front, his 7-foot frame towering over the humans. His skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to communicate something to his companions. "The High Council awaits," Zorix announced, his voice a melodious sound that somehow bypassed ears and resonated directly in the mind. "Who will represent Earth in this final discussion?" President Okafor stepped forward from the White House entrance, flanked by representatives from the United Nations Security Council. "I will lead our delegation," she said firmly. Zorix's skin flickered with what humans had come to recognize as amusement. "Very well, you may bring 5 advisors. Choose wisely, though it will make little difference to the outcome." Tours watched as Okafor selected her team: the UN Secretary-General, the Chinese Premier, the EU President, and Russia's Chancellor. Then, to Tours' surprise, the President turned to Dr. Park. "And Dr. Nolan Park," Okafor announced, "representing Earth's scientific community." Zorix's patterns flickered rapidly, surprised, Tours thought. "This one?" the Veridian asked, studying Park with newfound interest. "Our scans identified no significant technological achievements from this individual." Park smiled pleasantly, adjusting his backpack straps. "I keep a low profile." The journey to the Veridian ship occurred in an instant. One moment they stood on the White House lawn, the next they were in a vast chamber that seemed constructed of living crystal. The walls pulsed with light that responded to the movements of the Veridians, and in the center floated a 3-dimensional projection of Earth, rotating slowly. "Primitive yet fascinating," said a new voice. A Veridian larger than Zorix approached, skin patterns more complex and intense. "I am High Commander Velex, governing authority of this sector. We have studied your species extensively." The image of Earth transformed, displaying humanity's infrastructure: power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, and military installations. "Your technological development is quaint," Velex continued. "Fossil fuels, rudimentary nuclear fission, chemical propulsion for space travel. You've barely begun to grasp quantum computing and your AI systems are laughably simple. President Akafer maintained her composure. We are young as a technological species, yes, but we learn quickly and value our independence. Independence is an illusion for species at your development stage, Velex replied dismissively. The terms are simple. Earth will become a protectorate of the Viridian Collective. We will guide your development, restrict certain avenues of research deemed dangerous, and extract minimal resources for our efforts. In exchange, you receive our protection and limited access to our medical technology. And if we refuse, the Russian chancellor asked, voice tight with anger. Velex's skin darkened. Then we cannot guarantee your protection from other species who would be less benevolent in their approach to resource acquisition. Dr. Park, who had been quietly examining the chamber, suddenly chuckled. All eyes turned to him. Something amuses you, human? Zorix asked. Just an observation, Park replied, setting his backpack down. You've clearly studied our infrastructure, our conventional technology, but I'm curious, what methodology did you use for your survey? Velex's patterns shifted to what Tors had learned indicated confusion. Standard quantum resonance scanning. It reveals all technological signatures across known energy spectrums. Park nodded, opening his backpack. That explains it then. Explains what? Velex demanded. Why you missed everything important about us, Park said, pulling out what looked like a simple metallic cube, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift as Tors watched. Dr. Park, President Akafer cautioned, we agreed. Don't worry, Madam President, Park assured her. I'm not activating anything dangerous, just making a point. He turned to Velex. This device would have been completely invisible to your scans. Want to know why? The Viridians gathered closer, their scientific curiosity evidently piqued despite themselves. It operates on principles that exist outside conventional quantum fields, Park explained. We call it zero-point engineering, technology that draws energy from spaces between quantum states rather than the states themselves. Impossible, Zorix declared. Such technology would require theoretical understanding beyond your species' capabilities. Park smiled. That's the thing about humans, Ambassador. We don't always understand things before we build them. Sometimes we build them by accident. He pressed a small indentation on the cube and it levitated above his palm, emitting a soft blue glow. A teenager in Mumbai created the first prototype of this while trying to make a better wireless phone charger in her bedroom. The Viridian skin patterns went haywire, communicating rapidly among themselves. High Commander Velex stepped forward, studying the device. This is unexpected, he admitted. But one anomalous device doesn't change the fundamental assessment of your species. True, Park agreed, returning the cube to his backpack, which is why I brought a few more examples. He pulled out what appeared to be an ordinary tablet computer. This looks like standard Earth technology, right? Except it's not processing information digitally or even quantum mechanically. It's using entangled photons in a biological substrate. He activated the tablet, and a holographic display materialized above it, far more detailed and stable than the Viridians' own projections. Where did you acquire this technology? Velex demanded, his tone no longer dismissive. We didn't acquire it from anywhere, Park replied. A collaboration between a neuroscientist in Lagos and a botanical research team in Ecuador. They were trying to understand plant communication networks and accidentally created a new computing paradigm. Tors watched as the dynamic in the room shifted subtly. The Viridians were no longer looking at the humans with condescension, but with growing concern. You've hidden your true technological capacity, Zorix accused. President Akafer shook her head. We've hidden nothing. These innovations exist throughout our society, but they don't show up in centralized infrastructure because that's not how humans innovate. We're decentralized, chaotic, and unpredictable. Park nodded, reaching deeper into his seemingly bottomless backpack. What Commander Velex and his team discovered was our conventional technology, the stuff we build when we're being logical and methodical. But humanity's true strength? He pulled out a small sphere that hummed quietly. This is what happens when we let our creativity run wild. What does it do? Velex asked, unable to hide his curiosity. It predicts quantum state fluctuations before they occur, Park stated simply. Developed by a retired physics teacher in Argentina who was trying to create better weather forecasting software. The implications weren't lost on the Viridians. Such technology would make their supposedly unbreakable encryption systems vulnerable, their shield technologies potentially obsolete. If you've been concealing such capabilities, Velix said slowly, why have you not developed interstellar travel? Why remain confined to your solar system? Because we've been busy solving different problems, Park replied, returning the sphere to his backpack. Problems like distributed energy generation, nanoscale medicine, and consciousness transfer. We haven't prioritized leaving Earth because we've been focused on making life better here. He zipped up his backpack and looked around at the Viridian Council. So perhaps we should restart this conversation, not as protectors and protected, but as species with different approaches to innovation who might actually have something to learn from each other. Tors watched as the Viridians conferred among themselves, their skin patterns reflecting a conversation of increasing complexity. The humans stood silently, waiting, with Dr. Park calmly adjusting his glasses as if this were just another scientific presentation rather than humanity's most crucial first contact. Finally, High Commander Velix turned back to them. We require time to reassess our understanding of your species. His tone had changed completely, no longer dismissive but cautious, almost respectful. This negotiation will reconvene after we have conducted more thorough investigations. As they were transported back to Earth, Tors caught Dr. Park's eye. What else do you have in that backpack of yours? Park smiled mysteriously. Insurance for round two, he patted the worn canvas. The really interesting stuff we're saving for when they come back. The cosmic chess game. 3 days after the initial confrontation, Earth remained in suspense. The Viridian ships had retreated to high orbit, their hulls occasional glimmers in the night sky as they conducted what they called a comprehensive cultural and technological assessment. Military installations worldwide remained on high alert, but the immediate threat appeared to have subsided. Dr. Nolan Park sat in the makeshift command center established beneath the Pentagon, his backpack resting against his chair as he sipped coffee from a chipped mug. Holograms displaying the Viridian fleet's positions floated around the room while analysts worked feverishly at monitoring stations. They've been scanning everything, General Tors reported, sliding into the chair opposite Park. Different from their previous scans, much more detailed. They're particularly focused on universities, private research facilities, even residential areas with high concentrations of tech workers. Park nodded. They're looking for our innovation network. Good luck with that. Will they find it? Tors asked. There's nothing to find, Park replied with a smile. That's what they don't understand. Our advantage isn't in some secret facility or hidden infrastructure. It's in millions of individual minds working in parallel, often without even knowing they're part of something larger. The room's main screen flickered to life, displaying the face of Ambassador Zorix. Earth representatives, the Viridian announced, his skin patterns pulsing with what humans now recognized as urgency. The High Council requests the immediate presence of your delegation. You may bring additional scientific advisors. Park's eyes twinkled as he shouldered his backpack. Round 2 begins. This time, the negotiation chamber aboard the Viridian flagship was crowded. In addition to High Commander Velix and Ambassador Zorix, at least 20 Viridian scientists were present, their skin patterns shifting rapidly as they communicated among themselves. Earth's delegation had expanded too. Alongside President Okafor and the original team stood 8 leading scientists from various disciplines, handpicked by Dr. Park. We have completed our reassessment, Velix began without preamble, his tone markedly different from their first encounter. Your technological development is unorthodox. That's one way of putting it, Park agreed cheerfully. Our scans detected no central coordination, no unified research direction, yet we found evidence of advanced technology scattered throughout your population centers, often in locations that make no logical sense. Velix's skin flickered with what might have been frustration. A quantum communication array in a university dormitory. Gravitational manipulation experiments in a suburban garage. A prototype consciousness transfer system in a senior retirement community. President Okafor nodded. As we explained, humanity doesn't innovate systematically. It's inefficient, Zorix interjected, wasteful of resources and intellectual capacity. Dr. Haruki Tanaka, a Nobel-winning biophysicist from Japan, spoke up. Yet effective. Our species moved from first powered flight to landing on our moon in just 66 years, from basic electronic computers to quantum interfaces in less than a century. What you call inefficient, added Dr. Amara Osai, a network theorist from Ghana. We call evolutionary innovation. Many parallel attempts, most failing, but the successful ones propagating rapidly through our information networks. Velex's patterns stabilized into what the humans had learned indicated deep contemplation. We have existed as a spacefaring civilization for 9,000 of your years. In that time, we have encountered 47 sapient species. None have developed technology as chaotically as humans. Which brings us to the real reason for this meeting, Park said, setting his backpack on the central table. You're not here to negotiate Earth's surrender anymore, are you? The chamber fell silent as Velex and Zorix exchanged complex pattern communications. Finally, Velex's skin shifted to a deep blue, a sign of formal acknowledgement. No, the High Commander admitted, we are here to discuss alliance. President Akafer's eyes widened slightly, the only indication of her surprise. Alliance against what? The Nexus Dominion, Zorix answered, activating a holographic display that showed a vast network of interconnected worlds. A collective of species that has been expanding through this galactic sector for the past 3 centuries. Their technological approach is similar to yours, innovative, unpredictable, difficult to counter with conventional methods. Dr. Park leaned forward, and the Viridian Collective, with all its methodical, logical advancement, has been losing ground to them. We do not lose, Velex said sharply. We reassess strategic priorities. You retreat, General Torres translated bluntly. Rather than taking offense, Velex's patterns indicated agreement. The Dominion's technology evolves too rapidly for our defensive measures to adapt. Their computational systems operate on principles we cannot predict. Dr. Park unzipped his backpack. Which is why you came to Earth. Not just for resources or a new protectorate, but because you detected hints of our technology and thought we might have solutions you don't. A theory emerged among our scientists, Zorix acknowledged. That species with shorter lifespans might develop mental frameworks capable of radical innovation precisely because they lack the time for methodical advancement. We live fast, think fast, and solve problems fast, Park said with a nod. Because we have to. He reached into his backpack and removed a small crystalline device that resembled a Viridian data core but with intricate modifications visible on its surface. The Viridian scientists moved closer, their patterns indicating intense interest. This is a modified version of your quantum processing core, Park explained. We intercepted and analyzed the scattered emissions from your ship's engines during your first week in orbit. Dr. Tanaka here reverse-engineered the basic principles, and my team integrated what we call quantum fuzzy logic into its processing matrix. Impossible, a Viridian scientist protested. Our technology is secured against. Against logical analysis, yes, Park interrupted. But we didn't approach it logically. Dr. Rivas here actually figured out the core principles while meditating after reviewing the data. Said the pattern came to her in a dream. Dr. Isabella Rivas, a theoretical physicist from Argentina, shrugged. The subconscious mind recognizes patterns that our conscious reasoning cannot. Park activated the modified core, and a new holographic display appeared showing the Nexus Dominion's fleet movements, but with predictive trajectories that extended far beyond the Viridians' own projections. This device doesn't just analyze their current movements, it predicts their adaptive responses based on psychological profiling rather than technological assessment, Park explained. It assumes they'll think like we do, laterally and unpredictably, rather than following logical progression paths. High Commander Velex studied the projections, his skin patterns revealing astonishment. This predicts 3 strategic pivots we never anticipated. Because you were thinking like Viridians, President Akafer said, you need someone who thinks like the enemy, or more accurately, someone who doesn't think in straight lines at all. Park reached back into his backpack and pulled out a second device, this one appearing more like an Earth tablet, but with components clearly inspired by Viridian technology. This is a prototype defense system that uses what we call quantum empathy. It anticipates attacks by simulating the creative process of the attacker rather than analyzing attack patterns. He handed it to Zorix. It should help counter the Dominion's adaptive weapons. The Viridians gathered around the device, their skin patterns conveying wonder and confusion in equal measure. One of their scientists tentatively touched the interface, then recoiled as the system responded by reconfiguring itself to match her thought patterns. It learns from the user, Park explained. Another concept we've been working on technology that adapts to the operator rather than forcing the operator to adapt to it. High Commander Velix's patterns stabilized into the formal configuration that indicated official communication. The Veridian High Council proposes a mutual defense and technology exchange agreement with Earth. We offer our systematic research methodology and established technological base. You provide your unconventional innovation approaches. President Okafor looked to her advisors who nodded in unison. Earth is open to such an arrangement, provided it respects our autonomy and recognizes us as equal partners. Equal? Zorix questioned, skin flickering with doubt. Different but complementary, Park suggested diplomatically. You have experience and infrastructure, we have adaptability and creativity. Against an enemy like the Nexus Dominion, both are essential. Velix considered this, then performed a gesture that his translator explained was a formal acknowledgement of parity. Agreed. The alliance shall be formalized immediately. As the diplomats moved to discuss details, General Torres pulled Park aside. Did you plan this from the beginning, turn an invasion into an alliance? Park smiled enigmatically. Let's just say I had a hunch about why they were really here. Species don't survive 9,000 years of interstellar politics without learning to adapt when necessary. And the backpack, Torres asked, how many more miracles do you have in there? Park patted the worn canvas. Enough to keep them guessing. That's our real advantage, you know, not the specific technologies, but the fact that they can never quite predict what we'll come up with next. 6 months later, Dr. Nalan Park stood on the observation deck of the newly established Earth-Veridian Joint Research Station in lunar orbit. Below him, Earth gleamed blue and green, while above, the vastness of space beckoned. Beside him stood Ambassador Zorix, whose skin now displayed patterns indicating comfortable familiarity rather than the formal configurations of their early meetings. The Dominion fleet retreated from the Proxima sector yesterday, Zorix reported. Their adaptive shields couldn't counter the phase-shifting technology your garage innovators developed. Park nodded, and how are your scientists adapting to our collaborative approach? With difficulty, Zorix admitted, his patterns showing what humans had learned was amusement. The concept of brainstorming sessions where ideas are shared without hierarchical approval remains challenging for many. But effective, Park noted, gesturing to the station around them. A marvel of combined technologies that had been designed and built in record time. Indeed, Zorix's patterns shifted to a more serious configuration. The High Council has approved the expansion of the Human Education Exchange. 500 of our young scientists will study Earth's innovation methodologies, while 500 humans will receive training in our established technologies. Park smiled, the beginning of a true synthesis. Your species continues to surprise us, Zorix observed. Last week, a human child visiting our Cultural Exchange Center suggested a modification to our gravitational stabilizers that our engineers had never considered. When asked how she conceived of it, she said it reminded her of a puzzle game on her handheld device. That's humanity for you, Park replied, patting his ever-present backpack. Never underestimate what might be in our metaphorical backpacks. As they watched, a new ship emerged from Earth's atmosphere, the first vessel of the Joint Fleet, designed with Veridian systematic engineering but incorporating human-inspired adaptive systems. It represented not just a military alliance but a new approach to technological development that combined the best of both species. The ship accelerated toward the stars, carrying with it the hope of a partnership that might reshape the galaxy, all because one species had learned not to judge another by conventional standards, and because one human scientist had shown up to the most important negotiation in Earth's history with nothing but his wits and a worn backpack full of humanity's boundless creativity.